Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you the method I use to budget on a monthly basis and show you how you can do the same to have better control over your money and financial life. Real quick, before we jump into the spreadsheet, if you're new here, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video to help support and grow the channel. Thanks in advance, and let's jump right into it. So what you see on the screen now is the same budget template that I've been using for the last year to track my finances. And if you'd like this same free template, check out the link in the description to open it and make a copy for yourself. What I like about the spreadsheet I've built is that it's simple and easy to navigate, because I've seen and tried to use others that honestly were too complex and made the whole process a hassle. And something that I've found is necessary to budgeting and staying on top of your finances in general is making managing your money as frictionless as possible while still being intentional and knowledgeable about the financial decisions you are making. With that being said, the first thing that you'll see at the top of the page is a simple net worth tracker. This is where I track out all my assets and liabilities by comparing their balances on the first of the month to the last day of the month. For example, let's say I have $10,000 at the beginning of the month in my high yield savings account, and at the end of the month, my bank account shows $11,000. If I put those numbers in, you will see that it automatically calculates the increase in net worth on the column on the right. Outside of my high yield savings accounts, the other things I track here include my secondary bank account, investments, my Roth IRA, and 401k balances. If you have other things like car loans, mortgages, or student loans, you can also add and track those here. To add another item, simply right-click on the row, hit insert one row below, and then type in whatever it is, like student loan. And then drag the formula down for the increase/decrease in balance and input your balances. Obviously, you won't know until the end of the month what exactly your balance is sitting at, so this is a good way to remind yourself to check in on your budget at the beginning and end of the month at the very least. Moving on, you will see two boxes, one for expected income and one for actual income. I like having it set up this way because some aspects of our income are predictable, like a salaried job, while others, like a side hustle or freelance work, wouldn't be. So what I would do here is, let's say I am paid every 2 weeks and each paycheck comes in at $2,000 after taxes from my salaried position. I would enter those amounts in the expected box and the dates I anticipate receiving the money, depending on when your employer usually pays you. Then, let's say sometimes I do some photography jobs on the side, but that doesn't happen every month and just occurs when a job arises. Thus, I'm going to be conservative and enter $0 here just so I don't over budget. However, if you do have a side hustle that consistently brings in money, I would add that here. I would just recommend to be generally conservative and enter the lower end of the income range so you don't overextend your money. Then, throughout the month, as the money comes in, I would update the actual income box on the right. I would enter the $2,000 I received for each paycheck when it actually comes in. And then, let's say this month I had one photography gig that earned me $250 on, let's say, the 7th. You'll see in both boxes that a formula automatically totals the income amount, and we can see that we earned $4,250 this month. Moving on down, we have our budgeted versus actual expenses. This is where you will have to do some work to set up the categories of your budget that you want and the expected amount you want to budget for those respective categories. If this is your first time budgeting, it will probably take 2 to 3 months of budgeting to actually dial in the expected amount column as you learn your spending habits. However, just go with your best guess for what those amounts will be the first month. As you can see, the template has common categories that people spend in, but you will have to figure out what works best for your situation. Now that we have our budget amounts, we will go over here to the right where we record our actual expenses. For example, let's say we pay for rent on the first day of the month. So in the vendor column, I would put something like rent payment. Then I would choose from this drop down my rent category. And we actually pay the same $1,600 that we budgeted to rent. As you can see, the box on the left automatically pulls your actual expense amount in using a formula. Just to demonstrate this again, let's say we went to Chick-fil-A and spent $12.50 on the 2nd of the month. We'd plug that in and then select the dining category for the drop-down menu. And again, we see that the formula pulled in the $12.50 in the actual column on the left. Now, if you want to customize the categories yourself, you will also have to change the drop-down menu. So let's say we change this gifts category to gas. To make sure the formulas still work, we go over to the drop-down, expand it, and then click this pencil at the bottom, which will then allow you to edit the categories. I'll just go down to gifts and replace it with gas, hit done, and apply to all. Then, when I enter a gas purchase for $100, you will see the formula is now picking up the ones tagged gas. Now that we've entered our actual incurred expenses, you will see that the actual amount total is automatically calculated. Below that, we have our overall profit from the month that subtracts our expenses from our income. Then, below that, we have an area to allocate our profits. You can choose which areas you want this to go to, but the template example has one for our Roth IRA, our brokerage account, and finally, our high yield savings account. The formula I have set up for the high yield savings account is just the remaining amount after you take the profit minus the amounts allocated to our Roth IRA and brokerage accounts. As you can see, the expected column nets to 0, which means we've allocated all of our budget correctly. The last thing we have in this budget is a savings rate calculator. This is simply a formula that divides our profit by our total income to let us know what our savings rate is. The reason I add this is that it's a metric that anybody can try to improve over time. The hope here would be two things. First, that your savings rate would be at least 20%, and second, that as your income goes up over time, your savings rate also increases because you aren't falling victim to lifestyle inflation. As we can see in our template, the budget example has a savings rate of 16%. So, to improve this to that 20% mark, we can first take a look at our largest expenses like rent, groceries, and our car payment. The reason we look here is that these are the areas of our budget that we have the most control over. Maybe that means the next time our lease is up for renewal, we find a new apartment that is slightly cheaper, that doesn't have all the same amenities, but still is just fine for most purposes. Or maybe we can drive a cheaper car that maybe isn't as nice, but still functions just like any other car. Simply by decreasing our car payment by $50 a month, and our rent by $100, we've already increased our savings rate to over 20%. Now, obviously, this is an ideal situation, but everybody's personal situation will be slightly different. The goal is to just focus in on your personal budget and try to be honest with yourself about the things you need versus what you want. And ultimately, you can only cut out so much from your expenses, and to really see that savings rate grow, you'll need to focus on advancing in your career and increasing your income over time. With that, I hope this video helped you, whether you're new to budgeting or not. And remember, if you want the same template I used in the video, there's a link down in the description where you can view the template. All you have to do is click on that, and then when it loads, hit File and make a copy, and then you will have your own sheet that you can edit and modify. Again, if you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, and feel free to check out one of my other videos over here. Thank you very much for watching.